Now what you're looking at in this slide is sort of a conceptual model of the kind of work that we're doing. Our manipulations are at the top and the bottom of the ecosystem. We manipulated predators at the top of the ecosystem, and then we manipulated light availability and primary productivity at the bottom of the ecosystem, and we're looking at all the interactions that happen in between. We're looking at primary productivity, we're looking at the things that eat the algae, the primary producers in the streams, we're looking at the things that eat the primary producers, most of which are guppies and the rivulus, and then we're also looking at nutrient cycling and other things that will fully characterize the structure of the ecosystem, so we also can get a full characterization of how the ecosystem changes over time. Now, as part of this research program, we built another facility. What you're looking at here are 16 artificial streams that were built alongside a natural stream in Trinidad, and we use these streams for doing small, short-term, focused factorial experiments. The idea is that the big focal streams are like a grand experiment. We introduce guppies, and then we collect this complex time series of information on what happens. But what we also want to do is to get better ideas of what the cause and effect relationships are that underlie what's going on in the large focal streams. And that's why we turned to these small artificial streams. Here we do short-term experiments where we can ask what are the differences between high and low predation guppies and how they impact their ecosystem, and what some of the other details are about the underlying interactions. What you're looking at here is the results of one of our earliest experiments. One of the principal investigators, Kathy Pringle, invented a technique where she makes these copper loops and puts them in the bottom of a stream, and then she can run an electric field through it. You can hook them up to an electric fence charger. They're the kinds of fence chargers that we use for confining sheep and cows to a fenced-in area. But when you put them in a copper coil in the bottom of a stream and you send a little bolt of electricity through them every couple of seconds, what it does is excludes fish, but it lets everything else in. So on the left-hand side of the slide, what you're looking at is a copper coil that's a control. It has no electric field in it. And on the right-hand side is a copper coil that has the electric field on it. And you're looking at the differences between the presence and absence of guppies after only 2 weeks. On the right-hand side, you can see that all of the environmental surfaces are coated with a brown slime, whereas that's on the right-hand side, whereas on the left-hand side, the bottom is clean. Now, this was a remarkable result to me because I always thought about guppies as being like ornaments on the landscape, meaning that they're there, they're interesting, and I could study their evolution, but I really never expected that they would have a profound effect on their ecosystem. And you can see here, as a result of excluding guppies in an artificial stream for a period of only 2 weeks, that they really do have a profound effect. And the reason is that, at least in low predation localities, guppies are reasonably abundant, the population densities are high, and they're constantly grooming the substrate. They're always going along and pecking and grooming and eating whatever is there. And as a result of that grooming activity, they keep all the surfaces, the environmental surfaces, clear. So when you take guppies out, you then get an abundant growth of other things, of what we call the biofilm on the surface of whatever else is in the environment. So guppies really do have a big impact on their ecosystem. That was the first interesting result. What you're looking at here are artificial streams in which, in one case, we put low predation guppies, and in the other case, we put high predation guppies, but otherwise the streams were identical and the population and size distributions of the guppies were the same. And after a period of 4 weeks, what we found is that the structure of the ecosystems were dramatically different. In all the channels that had high predation guppies, the water remained clear. In all the channels that had low predation guppies, we got a buildup of flocculent algae on the surface, as you can see here. It was possible to stand on a hillside 30 meters away and assign without error what type of guppy was in each of these streams. And so this again tells us something profound about guppies. It tells us that as guppies adapt to high versus low predation environments, there's a change in how they utilize their environment. And a consequence of that change is that they'll cause dramatic differences in the structure of the ecosystem in a very short interval of time. Now, this gets us part of the way there to talking about interactions between ecology and evolution. It says that as the guppies evolve and adapt to the presence or absence of predators, they also change how they use the environment and change the structure of their ecosystem. The next part that we have to look at is whether or not the changed ecosystem, the way guppies alter their environment, in turn feeds back on the kind of selection that guppies experience and causes them to evolve to an endpoint that's different from what we would expect based upon the differences in mortality rate alone. And that's what we're doing right now. Now I want to leave you with a closing image of what a day in the life of a field biologist is like. And what you have to imagine is I've just spent the whole day leaning over a stream, collecting guppies, sort of nestled in between all the bushes and shrubs that grow around the side of the stream. And now I'm going to stand up and my back is stiff and I'm sort of stretching out and I turn around and I'm confronted by this. Fortunately, at the time this happened, I had a camera, and it's one of the nice wake-up calls that you get as a consequence of working in the tropics. Now, some of you who know me might wonder how it is that I've stood in one place all this time, because normally I'd be jumping around. And the answer is that the person who did this filming, Jim Brown, nailed my feet to the floor before the filming process began. Thank you very much.